Hi, welcome to episode 7 of Cultivate Calm series. If you're new here, my name is Maria, and this is your channel for cultivating a calm and balanced life. I also have a small announcement to make now. After this episode, I'm going to see you back here in May because I am taking a quick vacation for a couple of weeks, and I'm very proud of myself for doing so because my old self, Maria from like a decade ago, would have probably worked twice as hard to pre-batch the episodes for the duration of vacation. And then I would probably strain myself and feel completely exhausted by the time the time for rest comes. But this time I thought I've been doing this for 7 months now, and I'd like to take this little time to recalibrate, reconnect, and just come back with fresh new ideas. There is still a lot I want to cover here, and medicinal herbs, and go in depth about some of the gut-friendly herbs and spices that I use. And I'm very grateful for you guys for asking me questions, and that gives me a good direction on where the series goes, because it's not just me talking in front of the camera here. It's a dialogue, and I want to make it useful and interesting for you guys. So as always, if you have any thoughts or questions, please share in the comments. Together we can create a beautiful community here. I will most likely show up on my Instagram even during the vacation time, at least in stories. So if you guys want to stay in touch, please follow me on my Instagram. The link is in the channel description. Today I wanted to talk about something super important for cultivating your calm life. And that is the shift in mindset and identity, which are, I think, necessary when we really make a big change. And I'm going to just share a few of my personal experiences, so take what resonates, leave what doesn't, and share in the comments what you think, how it works for you, and where you are on your journey of cultivating a calmer life. I do view the question of ego both from psychological and spiritual perspectives, and without going too much into detail, but there are wonderful insights in the works of Carl Jung, and there are many useful, insightful ideas in modern spirituality. But the idea is that we have our ego, which is kind of monkey brain type concept, the way I see it. And that's where a lot of the mental health issues like anxieties and insecurities come from. The ego is influenced and impacted by all the different influences in our life, starting with our young years and going further into adulthood. But I have read a ton of books both on psychology and the question of reprogramming our mind, and I wanted to cover a few of the key concepts in this video. But I want to start with the most important one, and that comes from spirituality. So I'm not sure where everybody is in this question, so I'm going to try to keep it without too much woo-woo. But I guess it helps that I view myself, at least, as a spiritual being having a 3D earth experience, and that gives a bit of a broader perspective on life and on things and on myself. But the main idea is that when we are at the precipice of a huge life change, we need to basically experience what is called an ego death. And it sounds a bit dramatic, but I have actually experienced this ego death a few times in my life. It is a hugely uncomfortable process and often associated with the dark night of the soul. Again, sorry for the spiritual lingo. But the idea is that the old self in its entirety needs to die, for lack of a better word, and then to birth our new self. If we think about it more in terms of like more understandable psychological concepts, I would think that, I'm not a psychologist, I'm a psychology enthusiast, and the idea is that as we're growing up, we end up constructing a certain mental self-image, self-portrait of ourselves, and that is often influenced by what our closest people tell us, or generally the society, and that self-portrait ends up sort of informing a lot of our decisions in life. That's why I often talk about how important it is to get to know our true selves. And there is a very interesting exercise where they say, tell me who you are without mentioning your name, education, occupation, country you're from. You know, like if you really strip yourself of all of these societal constructs, what are you in your core? And that is where the question arises with this self-portrait sort of thing, because I liken the ego death process to how a snake sheds its skin, or how a phoenix is reborn from the ashes of destruction, or if you're familiar with tarot, it's the Tower card. So the tower, which was outgrown, which no longer serves us, needs to be completely destroyed to its foundation, and the new tower is built in its remnants. So the idea is that as we get to know ourselves on a deeper level, to really understand who we are, we start also identifying which beliefs about ourselves came from repeated programming by society. And it doesn't necessarily mean that people who said things to us are bad at all, but it just sometimes even our closest people wishing us well say things which maybe don't serve us, don't serve our highest good. And I think for me, one of these things was when I was a young person, child and teenager, young adult, my family always told me, Maria, you have no connections and no looks to rely on. You just have to work hard and get smarter. And while that, and I internalized it a lot, and while that did help me stay motivated and achieve a lot of things in life, which I'm proud of, but it did lead to me having a rather skewed image, self-image. Like I did not accept how I look, like I thought I was unattractive, and that like the way I looked was not good. And it took a lot of inner work to realize, oh, I'm actually cute. But that's partly because of what my family kept telling me. But on the other hand, I learned to work hard. And the downside was that for a long time, all I knew was working hard, which is why this vacation for me, it's a huge victory over my old limitations. Because I learned, I had to teach myself, it's called reparenting, and that's when you sort of reparent your inner child and you teach your inner child to, you know, relax and have fun. And that is at least me speaking from my experience. And yeah, so as we experience this personal growth and we realize that a lot of these external societal family programming type things don't serve us anymore. We suddenly we may realize that the entire identity we build based on those programs is actually not us, and not, at least not anymore. And sometimes it happens as a more or less steady process, and it takes a little bit of time, but other times it's more of an abrupt thing. And that is what happened to me when I quit my law career, because I associated myself with my career as a lawyer since a very young age. I got my very first job in law when I was only 19 years old, in the end of my freshman year of university. And at age 19, I had really nice business cards from a reputable law firm at the time. It was like, I remember the logo was like embossed, like with this, like you could feel it. It was so cool. And I attended networking events and conferences and exhibitions and represented the law firm. I don't know, they always like pushed me out there, even though I'm an absolute introvert. Like, my happiest place is just like in my four walls or in nature, and I'm super shy around large groups of people. Like, I get almost a paralyzing yeah, like even now when I'm talking about it, like I can't talk about it because I'm very very shy in large groups of people. But yeah, and that was me at a young age, and I sort of like I felt pretty cool. And of course, like my classmates from the university were like looking up to me in a way, and I was proud of being able to support myself and renting my own apartment, and it was very nice at that young age. And then I progressed, and basically my entire identity in my early 20s revolved around being a lawyer, having like a career and working hard and going on business trips and having business cards and wearing suits. So when ultimately I quit my law career, I had a huge identity crisis because I didn't know who I was outside of being a lawyer. And it took quite a bit of digging into my own self to understand that I'm more than just my job or my career. But when these kind of things happen, then the ego death process can be rather sudden and shocking and abrupt, and it wasn't pretty. So I always encourage people I meet to rather sort of run these checks once in a while, to check in, connect with yourself, and sort of keep a finger on who you really are in your core, rather than waiting until the universe brings something like what happened to me. And I feel that as we get to know ourselves, we step onto a very beautiful journey of self-explorations, and we can schedule dates with ourselves, you know, just go somewhere by yourself and see how you feel, like what makes you tick, what makes you happy, what is uncomfortable, and where the discomfort is coming from. And I think we can do real good to the planet and to the collective, to our loved ones, if we just gather the courage, because it does take a lot of courage, because it's very scary to face yourself. At least it was for me. Yes, I think we really emit a lot of light when we step into this journey of self-exploration and allow ourselves be who we are. And being ourselves in a way also gives permission to other people in our life to also be themselves. And it's about self-acceptance, about unconditional self-love and compassion to ourselves, acceptance and love for our shadow self, And if you're interested, by the way, like I mentioned earlier, Carl Jung writes about this. And that in the end makes us more calm, more confident in this kind of quiet way, and more ready to face whatever life brings. Because the one thing, and also what I keep telling people, like one thing I can guarantee is that life will throw curveballs. And the whole point and purpose of this channel and the general work I do is not to sort of create this toxic positivity thing, but more to equip you guys with tools which can help you deal with life's changes and life's challenges. Because I think life is more of an adventure story or a computer game, and no one would ever want to play a really boring computer game where like things are all easy breezy. Like if you spawn on the Fortnite island, you expect something, right? It's not just about taking a walk. Although, yeah, the way I play Fortnite is more, when I do have a chance, it's more like I land on the outskirts, and I do try to enjoy the scenery, like gather some loot, but I often end up at the edge of the thing, close to the storm circle perimeter. But yeah, sorry. The idea is that by shining our light, by being unapologetically ourselves, we elevate the entire collective energy. And my apologies for using a lot of spiritual lingo here, and I hope you guys are comfortable with that. But like I mentioned in the beginning, take what resonates, leave what doesn't. But there was no other way I could explain this concept. And yeah, I wish you all success on this beautiful journey of cultivating your calm life. And I hope that this video, while being a bit messy, unstructured, will somehow spark something positive in your mind and resonates and helps you on your beautiful journey of meeting yourself. Shine your light, be yourself. How many times have I said that? And have fun. I am looking forward to seeing you guys back here in May, and I'm wishing you a wonderful couple of weeks here. I'm looking forward to reading y'all's comments and questions, and wishing you a wonderful day wherever you are. Thank you for being here with me. Bye!